So good morning. So I'm going to continue with the book of Vimala, a talk that I started yesterday. And it's a talk where she lays out the human condition, the human situation in quite a bit of detail. So a little bit more. Look at the paradox. Look at the global schizophrenia. On one hand, so much comfort, so much means of having economic and material prosperity. And on the other hand, so much tension, fear, and anxiety. So why? Unless man finds out the why of these issues, resolves the tensions, and sets himself free of anxiety, unless he is at peace with himself, do what you will, there will be no peace in the world. The concept of world brotherhood, the theories of one world government, the principles of equality and fraternity, the dreams of democracy, all these will be intellectual decorations and not facts in life. So, for creating a new world, we have to allow a new human being to be born within us, who will be at peace with himself. To be at peace with oneself, one must know why there is no peace as it is. When man grew from instinct into reason, he had to take refuge in many intermediaries and introduce the dimension of time. Time is a symbol. Time has no reality of its own. We are living in a world where the old symbols are of no use any longer. Man has not found out new symbols. He will have to find a new dimension of awareness and a new way of communicating with one another, a new dimension of getting related with one another. Then perhaps a new human society could come into existence. First of all, we have to face the problem head on. We cannot escape into primitive, instinctual, impulsive behaviors. We cannot escape into blind, directionless revolts. Revolts postpone revolutions. Revolts forms their Revolts focus their attention on fragments of a fact. A revolution takes into its comprehensive focus the totality and tries to grow into a radically new dimension. So today, we have only come up to the roots of the malady, the nature of the challenges, and the causes thereof. Next week, we may go into the issue of how one can transcend the mind and the brain, which have the curse of fragmentary perception. Whatever the mind does, perception of totality has been beyond and will be beyond the mind. Reality will never be imprisoned in names and forms, which are the channels of mental understanding. I'm a complete stranger to your land. The only strength that I have is my anonymity. The speaker has not come here as a teacher or a preacher. I have no claims to be a sannyasi or a yogi. I'm just one of you, one of the billions inhabiting this globe. For me, spirituality is personal discovery of the truth. Growing into a religious awareness is the historical necessity for all of us, individually as well as collectively. One will have to grow into a new dimension and discover a new, totally new way of life. This concern brings me to your land. Let us understand it very clearly that whatever is communicated verbally is communicated in the spirit of sharing with you and not speaking to you. A love for life is the only urge which takes me from one land to another. So I'm really very grateful to Mrs. Armstrong, who has received a stranger and arranged this meeting. I'm also thankful to all of you for giving me such a patient hearing. So the third talk, 6th of October 1968, in Palo Alto, California. As we were driving up to this place, I was wondering how many of us are interested in understanding what life is and what the content of living is. Having a human form and existing biologically and psychologically does not necessarily imply that one is living. Existing and living, or vegetating and living, seem to be entirely different dimensions of life. But most of us seem to be taking for granted the fact that we are living. Religion for me is a personal first-hand discovery of what life is. Life is movement. Living is moving with the rhythm of the whole life around and within us. Movement needs freedom of the whole entity which is moving. Thus, living, which is moving, makes it necessary that we are free to move in our totality. Now, what is it to be free? And what is it to move? Through the senses, we receive impressions of things around us. Through the mind, we gather ideas and thoughts which are floating around us. When we meet individuals, we react to what they are doing through our minds, as well as our biological organism. Is this the extent of living? Do we try to find out whether the senses are capable of taking in the total objective reality of a unit of perception at any given moment? When I say I see an object, some impressions are received on the retina. But do my eyes take in the totality of the object, which I'm perceiving as a unit? Do I see the totality of any object at any time at all? Or is my contact with objective reality through the senses only a partial one? Man has been hypnotized into feeling that whatever he receives through the sense organs and the sensation carried to the brain contain the total objective reality. It seems to me that we are not entitled to believe the senses to such an extent. and take for granted that whatever is received through the senses is the objective reality. We have fallen into the habit of calling it knowledge of objective reality. We have been taught in our schools to call things by their separate names, to discriminate them. With every perception, certain emotions or certain thoughts are associated, so we react to them according to our specific education, culture, or religious instructions in which we have been brought up. It seems to me that as long as we are passively following the traditions and we do not exert ourselves individually to find out what the content of everything around us is, we cannot enter the dimension of religion. Human beings living in the 20th century know very well that various countries, various races, and various religions have developed patterns of behavior. They have developed patterns of thinking, patterns of reacting. All these patterns have been fed into the human brain. So a Hindu reacts in a certain way, and a Christian will react in another way. A communist will react to the same situation in a still different way. So one will have to question the validity of conforming to patterns of behavior. Unless one questions the validity thereof, I do not think one can be said to enter a religious dimension. The authority of various patterns of behavior has become so rigid in the psychological structure that man is not free to move and live. He is so much taken up by that authority. Every word for him has an association of idea and of emotion. Every gesture stimulates certain responses. He attaches so much importance to the authority of these patterns of thinking and reacting that he is not living at all. He is rather passively floating on the ocean of behavior patterns created by society. Very few of us really live. We just follow. One is not saying that these patterns have had no relative utility when they might have come into existence. I would like only to point out that one cannot move if one is stuck up in rigid patterns. The young people of today revolt against traditions and patterns and thereby feel that they have become revolutionary. If you only revolt against all the patterns and deny or reject them, a new pattern of rejecting and denying comes into existence. Then you just deny everything that you see. You reject everything that you see. Acceptance and rejection are the obverse and the non and the converse of the same quality of mind. So one has to find out how one will be free to move with life. Can I move with life? Can I get related to human beings around me who are tremendous mysteries, whose feeling, thinking, and reacting changes every minute? So, how does one get related to people and to things around oneself? After all, living is getting related to others. We are entities. We're entities of thoughts, emotions, systems of reactions, and involuntary reflexes, crystallized and solidified. This is what we are. If we would like to get related to the so-called objective world and to human beings, we must first discover how we can be free to move, to see, to understand, and then to act. For discovering that, it seems necessary to recognize the simple fact that as long as we are living and functioning on the mental level, we cannot act freely. We will only react either to the surroundings or to the memories stored up in our subconscious or to the residue of collective unconscious stored up in us. As long as we are functioning on the mental level, we will be doing either of these three. Either we react to the sensation awakened by the impressions, or we react to the memory, which is a storehouse of knowledge and experience. When we are not in touch with the outside world, we are in touch with that inner world. Those memories come to life and make us behave in certain ways. If the conscious and the subconscious are quiet or are made artificially quiet, then the racial unconscious, hidden deep down, comes to life, and we react to the visions and extrasensory or transcendental experiences which are stimulated within us. As long as one is functioning on the mental level, action is impossible. Only reaction is possible. I wonder if I'm succeeding in conveying to you what I would like to convey. To live on the mental level has been the way for thousands of years. It seems to me that living on the mental plane is not living, it is passively reacting to what society has taught us. It is reacting to the collective experience of humanity which has gone before us. Reaction is not action. Reacting is not living. So then what does one do? I'm not getting related to you as long as my mind functions. The moment I look at you, my likes and dislikes come up. I react to the clothes that you are wearing. I react to the features that you have, the way you talk and walk. Before I could even listen to a word spoken by you, I have judged you according to my norms and standards. Some preference or prejudice has come into existence and is functioning even before you open your mouth to talk to me. This is the first barrier in getting related to another. Suppose you open your mouth and speak. Before I could really listen to you, the pitch of the sound, the volume of the sound, the facial expression, the tone in which you are speaking have created some reaction, emotional or intellectual. Here, there is a barrier again. I never really get in touch with you. The screens of my likes and dislikes, norms and standards, evaluations and conclusions come in between us, and I look at you from behind those screens. When you have spoken, every word has also associations of ideas and emotions in my mind. So your words evoke an emotional response before I have grasped the content of what you're saying. Thus, in this way, we judge each other even before we have communed with each other. We judge things and human beings the whole day, from morning till night. The mind is busy reacting, evaluating, comparing, and judging. Looking at one another through such a mind, obviously, is not looking at one another at all. It is looking at one's own intellectual or emotional creation. It is looking at the images that the mind creates. I use you and you use me as the raw material for constructing images. We're busy constructing images of one another. We have no time for understanding each other. That is why I say that as long as one lives on the mental plane, one is only reacting passively and not acting or living at all. This has become very clear to the whole world. Give the mind a new ideology, give the brain a new pattern, give the body a new habit pattern. Do what you will, as long as we are bound by the whole of the human psyche, which we have tapped and explored up till now. As long as we are living and functioning through it, there does not seem to be the slightest chance of creating a new world or creating a new texture of relationships. I think until here for today. So I wish you a really good day. Bye for now.